with the Department of National Defense finalizing its order for 2 new frigates for the Philippine Navy. The spotlight has begun to shift. The public conversation, once dominated by contract signings and specifications, is now moving toward a far more important question: what comes next? Beyond the excitement around these new ships lies a deeper strategic crossroads under the military's modernization program known as Horizon 3. The Philippine Navy must decide what kind of surface force it intends to become in the coming decades. This is no longer just about replacing old ships. It is about shaping a fleet that can endure, deter, and win in an increasingly complex maritime world. For years, the Navy has been engaged in a quiet but determined transformation, from a force once centered on legacy patrol ships. It is evolving into a modern maritime service capable of operating alongside regional and global navies. Each purchase now carries long-term consequences, not just for capability, but for doctrine, training, and alliances. At the center of the current discussion is a seemingly modest requirement to new corvettes. On paper, the idea appears straightforward. Corvettes would sit neatly between offshore patrol vessels and frigates, providing flexibility, numbers, and credible combat power. They could patrol independently across the archipelago, reinforce security missions, and supplement frigates during high-intensity operations. But one critical factor complicates the picture. The budget for this corvette project is significantly smaller than what was allocated for the new frigates. This single detail has triggered a wave of strategic questions about what the Navy can realistically acquire, what compromises it should be willing to make. Early assumptions suggested the simplest path would be a follow-on order based on the existing Jose Rizal-class frigate design. Under this approach, the new ships would use a familiar hull and systems, but would be delivered in a fitted 4, but not with configuration. This means key combat systems like vertical launch systems, towed array, sonar, and close-in weapon systems would be structurally provided for, but not actually installed at delivery. This approach isn't new. It mirrors the compromises made during the Navy's first modern frigate acquisition, when budget constraints forced planners to prioritize the ships themselves over their full combat capability. At the time, the decision was understandable. The Navy needed modern ships quickly, and future upgrades seemed like an acceptable trade-off. Today, however, the context has changed dramatically. The Philippine defense procurement environment is more mature. The Navy now has real-world experience operating modern warships. Crews are trained on advanced combat systems, and most importantly, the Department of National Defense has shown growing openness to creative financing arrangements that can spread costs over time. This shift fundamentally alters what is possible. Instead of repeating past compromises, the Navy now faces multiple paths forward, each with distinct advantages and risks. The first scenario is the most straightforward and conservative. Under this option, the Philippine Navy buys 2 corvettes, but insists they be fully equipped from day one. The fitted 4, but not with idea, would be abandoned entirely. These corvettes would arrive with vertical launch systems for modern surface-to-air missiles, providing layered air defense for themselves and nearby ships. A close-in weapon system would offer last-ditch protection against missiles and drones, while a towed array sonar would significantly boost anti-submarine warfare capability, increasingly critical mission. In addition, these ships would feature improved electronic warfare suites, modern decoys, and a solid stock of ammunition included in the initial contract. Instead of waiting years for upgrades that may never come, the Navy would receive immediately credible combatants. The strategic value is clear. 2 fully armed corvettes would punch well above their weight, providing flexible options for escort missions, sea denial, and deterrent patrols in contested waters. The downside, of course, is cost. Fully equipped ships are expensive, and insisting on top-tier systems might limit the Navy to only 2 hulls. That leads to the second scenario, one that prioritizes numbers and presence over the maximum capability of a single ship. Under this option, the Navy could expand the program beyond 2 corvettes, potentially acquiring 3 or even 4 ships. To do this, the Navy could choose a smaller, purpose-designed corvette platform instead of a full frigate-sized hull. One frequently cited example is the HDC 2000 corvette design from HD Hyundai. It's smaller than the Jose Rizal class, but still capable of carrying meaningful sensors and weapons, striking a balance between affordability and combat power. With 3 or 4 well-armed corvettes distributed across key naval areas, the Navy could dramatically increase its operational availability. Presence patrols would become more consistent, and escort missions could be sustained without exhausting the frigate force. For an archipelagic nation with one of the world's largest exclusive economic zones, this approach has strong appeal. It aligns with the Navy's growing emphasis on persistence being there day after day, not just during major crises. The third scenario is the most ambitious and transformative. Instead of acquiring corvettes at all, the Philippine Navy could step back and fundamentally reevaluate its entire surface combatant roadmap. Under this option, the corvette requirement would be set aside in favor of acquiring another batch of frigates larger, more capable, and more heavily armed than those currently in service or on order. By the time such a project moves forward, the Navy will have accumulated years of operational experience with modern combat systems. Crews will be more confident, support infrastructure will be more mature, and the Navy's ability to absorb advanced platforms will be far greater. This opens the door to a broader range of international offerings. HD Hyundai could offer its larger HDF 4000 design. The United Kingdom could enter the picture with its Arrowhead 140 design, a platform gaining global traction. France could propose its advanced FDI frigate, and Japan could offer an improved variant of its Megami-class frigate, bringing not only advanced technology but also strategic weight. Japan, in particular, stands out. Next to South Korea, it arguably has the deepest defense relationship with the Philippines. Cooperation already spans maritime security, capacity building, and technology transfer. Introducing Japanese-built warships would diversify suppliers, reduce dependence on a single source, and further cement a vital strategic partnership. Of course, realism is essential. The Navy's immediate priority is to absorb its incoming frigates. Ships alone do not create power. Crews must be trained, logistics must adapt, and doctrine must evolve. Rushing ahead without consolidating would risk overstretch. For that reason, announcements about more warships may not come anytime soon, but the direction of travel is unmistakable, whether through fully equipped corvettes, a larger corvette fleet, or a new generation of more capable frigates. The Philippine Navy is laying the foundations for a surface force that is credible, resilient, and regionally relevant. These decisions will shape how the Navy operates in the West Philippine Sea, how it contributes to regional stability, and how it protects national interests far from shore. This is not a story of sudden transformation. It is a story of deliberate choices, incremental gains, and long-term vision. The next major naval project will say a great deal about what kind of Navy the Philippines intends to be. If you found this analysis informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on Philippine defense and modernization. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.